You've been called too sensitive your whole life. Too emotional, too deep, too much. You've been told you take things too personally, that you need thicker skin, that you should stop letting everything get to you. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe that how you feel is a problem to be fixed. But I want to tell you something today. Your sensitivity was never the flaw they made it out to be. It is one of the most beautiful and powerful things about you. And by the end of this, I think you'll see it completely different. For as long as I can remember, there was a narrative in my family, carried mostly by my mother, that I was too sensitive, that I took everything too deeply. It followed me through my childhood into my adult life. It was said the way you point out a flaw, something about me that needed to be toned down. And I want to be honest, it played on repeat in my head. When something like that comes from a parent, or from anyone whose love you needed, the words nag at you, as if to convince you they're true. There were times that made me feel like there was something defective in me. But even as it stung, I never actually believed it was true. Somewhere deep down, I always knew my sensitivity was a gift. I stayed sensitive. I stayed exactly who I was. I never hardened myself to make other people more comfortable, because I could feel what my sensitivity gave me. I feel everything. If there's suffering in a room, I feel it. If someone is sad, I feel it. I've always been tuned into what people need, to what's really going on underneath what they're showing the world. When someone is reactive, I don't rush to judge them. I find myself wondering what happened to them. What's the wound underneath that? I've just always seen the world that way. And I always cared about people on a level that's hard to put into words. Even as a young child, I remember this love in my heart that felt like it could burst. This energy I had to get out of me. And when I became a mother, I wanted more children, but my body only allowed me 2. And for a long time I asked, why? Why give me all this love and only let me mother 2? It took me years to understand that my journey was to heal my childhood wounds. So in return, I would love myself. That the love was not only meant for my own children, it was meant to go back into the world. And the only way that I could give it back to the world and to you was to do the deep inner work and learn to love myself unconditionally first. That is the answer to everything. And returning to ourselves. And maybe you know this feeling too. The sense that you carry more love than you have places to put it. That you care so deeply and still find yourself in rooms where you don't feel seen. I lived that inside my own family for years. So full of love and still somehow on the outside of it. And I used to wonder if love was just something that was going to be denied to me. Over time, I came to understand why my mother couldn't understand that in me. My mother has been emotionally absent for most of her life. Not because she was heartless, because somewhere along the way, disconnecting became how she survived. And I was her opposite. I was wide open where she was closed. I felt everything where she had learned to feel as little as possible. I learned to sort through my emotions, where she would put you on the naughty stool and press pause when she couldn't deal with her own. So this was never about a good person and a bad person. We were just different. And what I know now, without any doubt, is that the very thing I was told was too much is the thing that lets me do the work I do. Because I know what it is like to feel all of it, to be in the hard times and want to give up, and to get back up anyway. The sensitivity was never the flaw. It was the gift. We've been taught that being sensitive is a weakness, that it makes you fragile or dramatic or hard to be around. But that's just not what it is. Sensitivity isn't fragility, it's perception. You take in more than the people around you. You're reading the room on a whole other level. Some people carry a kind of heightened awareness, a higher consciousness, if you want to call it that. And I want to be careful here because that doesn't make you better than anyone. It's not about being above people. It just means you're tuned into frequencies a lot of the world moves too fast to catch. So here's the first thing I really want you to hear. You were never too much. You just feel what other people miss. And once you see that for the gift it is, you stop apologizing for the very thing that makes you who you are. So here's a question that kind of answers itself. Why did so many people treat it like a problem? And here's what I've come to see. It was never really about you. It was about them. Think about who actually calls someone too sensitive. It's not usually another person who feels deeply. It's usually someone who somewhere along the way learned to shut their own feelings off. Somebody who had to go numb to get through. And then they meet someone like you, wide open, feeling everything. And it makes them uncomfortable. So they call it too much. Because you're feeling the very thing they spent their whole life trying not to. And this is the part I really want you to sit with. When someone calls you too sensitive, they're usually showing you the limit of what they can hold. And that doesn't make them uncaring. It doesn't even mean every hard piece of feedback is wrong. But their discomfort was never meant to become the final word on who you are. And once that clicks, you stop handing your sense of self to people who were never able to really see you anyway. And I know this can bring up even a harder question. Because if you feel this deeply, you've probably wondered at some point, why me? Why was I born into this family and surrounded by people when almost no one around me feels the world the way I feel it? Why am I the one who's surrounded by my own opposite? And honestly, it goes both ways. Just as foreign as they feel to us, we feel just as foreign to them. I see it even with my husband. His deepest care goes towards animals. Mine is pulled towards humanity, and it's healing. Neither of us is wrong. We're just built around different things. But still, when you're the deep feeler, it can be a lonely place to sit. You're the one showing up, the one loving hard, caring deeply, ready to hold everyone. And you look around and the people near you don't have the same capacity to hold you back. So it starts to feel like you don't belong. Like, where's my support? Why doesn't anyone get me? Why can't they see what I see? I've asked those questions too. And here's what I've come to believe. You weren't placed there by mistake. You were placed there to strengthen the very gift you carry. Because a sensitivity that only ever lived around softness would never have to grow strong. It's being the deep feeler in a room full of people who can't feel that teaches you to hold onto yourself. And sometimes it feels like punishment, but it's not. It's how the gift gets forged. So if your sensitivity was never the problem, then the work isn't about protecting yourself from it anymore. It's about learning to actually live from it. And part of that is taking care of it. Because feeling this much does cost you something. If you feel everything, you have to be mindful of what you let close to you. That's what boundaries are really for. Setting a boundary doesn't make you less sensitive. It's how you keep your sensitivity from wearing you out. And then there's trust. When you feel something underneath the surface, believe it. Don't talk yourself out of it the way you were trained to. But trust and discernment work together. A feeling is information. It's not always the whole story. So you can honor what you feel and still ask, is this mine, or did I pick it up from the room? Am I responding to what's happening now, or to something it reminds me of? That's not doubting your gift. That's how you learn to work with it instead of being carried away by it. And then you let it out, all that feeling, all that love you carry around. It was never meant to stay stuck inside of you. It was meant to go somewhere, into your work, into how you love the people around you, into showing up for someone who really needs to be felt. Because that's the whole thing. The sensitivity you were told to hide. That's exactly what this world is starving for. People who feel enough to notice and actually care. You were never meant to shrink yourself to carry this gift. You were meant to let it out. Into every room you walk into the people you love, and back into yourself. And I want to leave you with a soul musing to carry with you. The gift of feeling everything is your own kind of magic. What is misunderstood as too much can be transformed into the tenderness that makes room for another to grow. To love from a place of understanding and grace becomes the nectar for another soul. And as this conversation comes to a close, I want to leave you with these questions to carry with you today. Where in your life did you first learn that feeling deeply was a problem? And whose voice was it that taught you that? And maybe even deeper, what has your sensitivity allowed you to see or understand, or offer the people around you that the world would be missing without it? What would change if you stopped treating your sensitivity as something to control and started living from it as a gift? And before you go, if this episode spoke to something in you, I want to offer you a place to keep going. I created the Return to Self method, a deeply transformative journey that returns you back to yourself. You'll find it linked in the description below. And if this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next conversation. Because I truly believe that when we begin healing ourselves, we create more compassion, more understanding, and ultimately a better world for everyone. With so much love, I'll see you in the next one, dear soul.